There are moments in life when you suddenly realize that the more tightly you hold on, the more you hurt. The more you cling to something out of fear of losing it, the heavier your heart becomes. But with just a gentle release, with just a small loosening of the things you've been trying so hard to control, you find yourself breathing more deeply, your steps becoming lighter, and your mind no longer being dragged by what has already drained your strength. Some people only truly grow when they accept that a relationship that is no longer healthy needs to leave. Some only find themselves again when they dare to let go of an old dream that no longer fits who they are becoming. And sometimes all it takes for life to change is a single deep breath and a quiet decision. I won't hold on anymore. So, why does letting go have the power to change everything? Because often what exhausts us is not life itself, but our own resistance to what no longer belongs to us. In the teachings of the Buddha, letting go is not an act of avoidance, but a path to end suffering by stopping the struggle against reality. And today, we will walk that path together to understand why letting go can truly transform everything. And when we begin to look deeply into ourselves, we start to see why letting go is so difficult. The Buddha pointed out a fundamental truth in the Four Noble Truths. Life inevitably contains suffering, not because the world is cruel, but because the human mind naturally clings and resists change. Suffering arises when we want things to stay, even though their nature is to leave. Suffering arises when we hope others remain the same, even though they are changing with every passing day. And suffering arises when we cannot accept that we too are transforming with each breath we take. We often cling to someone who has already walked away, believing that if we hold on tightly enough, we can somehow recover what was lost. We may cling to an old dream that once made us happy, even though it no longer fits the direction our life is moving in. Or we cling to an image of ourselves that we think we must uphold so that no one feels disappointed in us, so that no one sees our vulnerability. Yet these attachments exhaust us, because they go against the natural flow of life. The truth is that what hurts us is not the event itself, but the mind's refusal to accept that it has already happened. When we resist the truth, when we refuse to acknowledge what cannot be changed, the heart becomes heavy. And it is here that the answer to our title begins to reveal itself. When we cling, life feels stuck, unable to open new paths. But when we are willing to release our grip, when we allow reality to be what it is, everything begins to move again in the most natural way. And when we understand that suffering is born from attachment, we naturally begin to look deeper into another truth the Buddha emphasized again and again, the truth of impermanence. Impermanence means that everything in life is always changing, whether we want it to or not. No moment is ever the same as the one before it. No person remains exactly as they were yesterday. No emotion lasts forever. Everything passes, flows, and transforms, just like the breath moving in and out of our own body. We do not suffer because life changes. We suffer because we expect it not to. We want the person we love to remain exactly as they were at the beginning. We want opportunities to unfold exactly according to our plans. We want our hearts to remain untouched by pain. But these desires go against the nature of all things, and it is this resistance to the natural order that exhausts us. Imagine a clear stream of water flowing before you. Every second that passes, the water is already different, never returning to what it once was. Or think of the seasons. They arrive and depart without force or hesitation, simply following the rhythm of the earth. And like the final glow of the setting sun, its beauty lies not in its duration, but in its passing, because we know it will fade in just a moment. These images remind us that the beauty of life rests in its continuous movement. When we truly understand impermanence, we stop gripping things out of fear. We see that letting go is not losing, but living in harmony with the natural rhythm of existence. And it is this understanding that opens the path to the transformation we have been searching for. When we look directly into the truth of impermanence, we begin to understand why attachment exhausts the heart so deeply. In a world that is always moving, trying to keep everything still is like trying to hold on tightly to a stream of flowing water. And it is in this very place that the quiet inner battle begins to reveal itself. The battle between holding on and letting go. Holding on is when we try to force life to unfold exactly the way we want. We cling to outcomes, believing that only when things happen according to our expectations can we be happy. We cling to emotions, refusing to allow ourselves to feel pain, sadness, or disappointment, only to suffer more when those emotions return even stronger. We cling to people, hoping they will always stay beside us, loving us in the way we imagine, and we cling to expectations, creating endless lists of this must happen, and it has to be like this, then blaming ourselves and blaming life, when reality does not follow the script we wrote. Letting go, on the other hand, is not abandoning or giving up. It is the quiet acceptance that we cannot control everything. Letting go is a step back for the ego, but a step forward for the soul. It allows us to breathe again, to allow things to settle naturally into their rightful place. It is our resistance to reality that truly hurts us. When we try to hold on to what has already changed, when we try to keep someone who has already left, when we try to control the uncontrollable, we burn through our own energy. But when we are willing to release our grip, that invisible battle inside us comes to an end. And it is precisely in this ending that we begin to see why letting go has the power to change everything. When the inner battle between holding on and letting go begins to settle, we step into a deeper understanding of the nature of happiness as the Buddha taught, the understanding of non-attachment. Many people hear the words non-attachment and immediately think it means being cold, uncaring, or disconnecting from life to avoid being hurt. But that is not what it means. Non-attachment does not mean we stop loving. It means we learn to love in a way that does not harm ourselves or others. In the Buddhist tradition, there is a gentle yet profoundly healing teaching from Thich Nhat Hanh. To love in such a way that the one you love feels free. To love in a way that brings freedom. Freedom does not mean leaving each other. It means not forcing anyone to become the version we want them to be. Freedom is not distance. It is the trust and spaciousness of the heart. When we love with attachment, we love from fear, especially the fear of losing. When we love with freedom, we love from fullness, from wholeness. Imagine a small bird resting in your open palm. If you close your hand tightly, the bird will panic and struggle to escape. But if your hand remains open, the bird may stay, it may leave, and the beauty lies in the fact that you did not cause it harm. Love, work, dreams, and even our relationship with ourselves are just like that little bird. The more tightly we cling, the more we suffer. The more gently we release, the more clearly we see what truly belongs in our life. When we bring the spirit of non-attachment into love, we love with understanding instead of control. In our work, we commit wholeheartedly, without demanding perfection from ourselves. With our dreams, we remain dedicated, but do not allow failure to define our worth. And with our own hearts, we learn to accept imperfections without punishing ourselves. And it is precisely within this spirit of non-attachment that we begin to see why letting go can change everything. When we no longer wish to own or possess, our relationships become lighter, more genuine, and our hearts open to a peace we may have never touched before. When we understand non-attachment more deeply, we naturally touch another truth the Buddha often reminded us of, the illusion of ownership. Human beings tend to believe they are holding on to many things. We think we own a person simply because they once walked beside us. We think we own objects because we paid for them. We think we own our reputation, our status, or an image of ourselves that we have built over many years. But the truth is far different from what we believe. We do not own our emotions, for they come and go in their own rhythm. No emotion stays simply because we want it to. We do not own time, for no matter how hard we try, each minute continues to pass without waiting for anyone. And we certainly cannot own another person, for every human being has their own path, their own heart, and their own freedom. Recognizing that everything is temporary, that ownership is only an idea created by the mind, is the first step toward true inner freedom. When we stop trying to control everything, we begin to realize that life moves according to its own pace, gentler, more natural, and often arriving exactly when we need it. And with that, the answer to our title becomes even clearer. When we release the need to control, not only does our heart become lighter, but our entire life begins to shift in a more peaceful direction. As we begin to see through the illusion of ownership and control, another lesson naturally rises to the surface, the lesson of patience and acceptance. Most of the suffering in our lives does not come from what happens outside of us, but from our insistence that everything must unfold according to our wishes. Resistance is when we push against reality, constantly thinking, it should be different. It shouldn't be like this. Everything must follow my plan. These thoughts bind us to tension, anxiety, and disappointment. Acceptance is something entirely different. Acceptance is not giving up or resigning ourselves. It is the first step toward making peace with what is here in this moment. Acceptance is gently telling ourselves, I choose peace over resistance. When we stop demanding that life must obey our expectations, the mind opens into a wider space where clarity and calmness can arise. In everyday life, acceptance appears through very small yet deeply meaningful choices. When we are stuck in traffic, we can become impatient and frustrated, or we can take a slow breath and remember that we cannot always decide the pace of the journey. When we are waiting for someone to reply, we can let our worries spiral into endless scenarios, or we can accept that everything arrives in its own time. And in the process of emotional healing, we can be desperate to feel better immediately, or we can choose patience, allowing each wound the time it needs to close on its own. When we stop fighting the natural flow of life, a profound shift begins. We are no longer swept into the whirlwind of control. Instead, we become lighter, more grounded, and more present in each moment. This acceptance becomes the doorway to letting go, and it is also the foundation for every deep transformation that unfolds within our lives. When we learn to accept and no longer fight against the natural flow of life, another doorway opens, leading us to a practice that lies at the heart of the Buddha's teachings, the practice of mindfulness. If we pay close attention, we will see that most of our suffering does not come from the present moment, but from the mind constantly running back to the past or racing ahead into the future. When the mind clings to what has already happened, we feel regret, self-blame, and resentment. When the mind leaps into what has not yet arrived, we feel worry and fear about things that may never occur. This restless wandering keeps the mind from resting, and it also keeps us from letting go. Mindfulness is the gentle thread that pulls the mind back to the present, the only place where life is truly happening. When we breathe consciously, we become aware that we are here. When we walk mindfully, we feel the earth supporting every step. When we listen deeply, we hear not only the words of others, but also the whisper of our own heart. When we eat in awareness, we taste each flavor as a gift from life. These simple practices hold a remarkable ability to soothe the mind. And when the mind becomes mindful, we naturally see that emotions are like clouds drifting across the sky. They come and go, gather and dissolve, and none of them are meant to be held on to. We suffer only when we cling to one feeling or try to push another away. But in mindfulness, we allow everything to arrive and depart according to its nature. Because of this, letting go is no longer an effort, no longer a struggle. It unfolds gently when we truly return to the present moment. For right here, in this very breath, in this very instant, there is nothing that requires us to keep holding on. And when mindfulness brings us back to the present moment, we begin to see a very common misunderstanding about letting go. Many people believe that letting go means giving up. But in the Buddha's teachings, letting go has never been an act of avoidance or escape. Letting go does not mean losing hope, nor does it mean stopping our efforts. Letting go simply means no longer allowing fear and the need for control to guide every step we take. Letting go means we still act, but we act from a place of ease, without being haunted by outcomes. We still love, but we love with freedom, not with possession or the fear that someone might leave. We still work and pursue what matters, but we no longer force life to unfold according to rigid expectations. It is here that the difference between letting go of control and letting go of caring becomes clear. Releasing control does not mean we stop caring. We can care deeply, give wholeheartedly, and still allow things to move in their natural direction. In fact, when we stop trying to control everything, our hearts open even wider, and our care becomes more genuine and pure. Letting go changes everything because it changes the energy from which we live. Instead of acting from fear, we act from peace. Instead of holding tight, we open. And this quiet shift within us becomes the turning point of an entirely new way of living. After understanding that letting go is not surrender, but a gentler way of living, we step into an even deeper layer of insight, trusting the natural flow of life. Life has its own rhythm, a rhythm we cannot force, accelerate, or hold back. Some things arrive exactly when they are meant to, and some things leave at the very moment they need to go. There are connections that blossom to help us grow, and there are connections that fade to make room for what is new. Some beginnings unfold quietly, and some endings settle into peaceful stillness. All of this follows the natural law the Buddha taught. When we truly trust this rhythm, we no longer need to cling to everything to feel safe. We no longer need to protect ourselves by trying to control life. Instead, we live more lightly, more mindfully, and more open-heartedly toward whatever comes and goes. And most importantly, we stop fearing loss, because we understand that what is meant for us will remain in the most natural way. This trust creates the deepest transformation. For when we trust the flow of life, letting go is no longer difficult. It becomes a natural part of the journey, as natural as breathing. And it is in this space of trust and softness that real change begins. As we look back on the entire journey from understanding suffering, recognizing impermanence, seeing our attachments, practicing non-attachment, releasing control, accepting the present, and trusting the natural flow of life, we begin to see clearly why letting go can truly change everything. Letting go is not a single action, but the ending of all inner resistance. When we stop fighting what has already happened, or what has not yet arrived, the energy within us is freed, becoming lighter, calmer, and more at peace. Letting go also opens new paths, new possibilities that we could not see before when our minds were filled with fear and expectation. It brings a deep sense of peace, because we are no longer tense from holding on to what has already changed. And most importantly, letting go brings us back to ourselves, to the clarity and freedom that have always been there beneath the layers of grasping and fear. If you are listening now, gently ask yourself, What is the one thing I am ready to put down? You are invited to share so we can walk this healing path together. And if you wish to continue accompanying us on this journey toward peace, feel free to subscribe so you will not miss the teachings to come.